I am Captain Logan, and this is day 261 of Spawn Year. And now, dear reader, I have the honor of making a statement I so rarely have the pleasure of making in this notebook. I liked everything about this issue. Yeah, not kidding. Finally, a deliberately paced comic with a natural progression that effortlessly moves from scene to scene, story believably propelled by a character's thoughts and actions. It doesn't fill panel space with needless tripe because it has a certain place it's forcing itself to get to by the last page, but all these extra pages it doesn't know what to do with in between. And the rarest jewel of all for a Spawn comic, the mythology here is interesting, serves the story, and is here because it both reveals something about our protagonist and propels the larger narrative. Usually these stories get that backwards. The only big reservation I had about Another Trip Through Hell was that because it's through the eyes of a new character, I'd feel like I'd been here and done all this already, and that Nyx might be used as a gimmick just to get back to now Lord of Hell Cagliostro. That's here, but it's blended with Nyx's personal story intelligently. She meets Redeemer, who is still trapped in Hell after Spawn's last visit, and who is, understandably, more than a little miffed that Spawn left him here after he tried to help him during Cog's mad grab for Bolgi's throne. This was, if you'll recall, before Spawn's revelation that he's kind of the worst thing that ever happened to planet Earth. Seeing Nyx and not believing his eyes, Redeemer immediately attacks what he reasonably thinks is Spawn. If I still had a normal person jaw, it would have dropped to the ground in dismay. Their fight only lasts 2 pages. And one is a gorgeous splash page of Redeemer about to bring his sword down on Nyx, an awesome, majestic image I wouldn't have appreciated nearly as much in an issue more about cool, senseless combat than the people engaged in it. Because our characters are suddenly operating like human beings and not action figures, Redeemer quickly notices that Spawn has wild fire hair and is shaped like an hourglass, and starts asking questions. He tells her about how Spawn left him in Hell, and Eddie is vulnerable and sympathetic here, talking about how he's free to move about as he pleases because he's a soldier of heaven and doesn't technically belong in Hell, but that Hell is a terrible place no matter why you're there, and he thinks maybe he ultimately does deserve what's happened to him because he killed his dad. Eddie and Nyx instantly relate to each other because of dark choices they're trying to atone for. Nyx explains that part of Spawn is grafted to her and why she's in Hell, and reluctantly and quite regretfully, she preys on Redeemer's sympathy for her by promising to take him with her out of Hell if he'll guide her to Thea, because she's lost, desperate, and committed. She's already betrayed and violated Al by stealing part of the symbiote, and she knows she can't finish her dark quest without more amoral choices. I love that I'm reading about someone who's doing the wrong thing, but I fully understand why she thinks she must, and I still care about what happens to her, regardless of her condemnable behavior. Spawn's symbiote is corrupting her slightly, but it's not the ambiguous pseudo-mind control we saw so often with Al, where you could never be sure who was really calling the shots. It gives her a lot of advice on how to survive and guides her away from her primary principle of do no harm. And given her magical abilities, which include healing, I think it's interesting to compare her philosophy of responsibility with a potentially dangerous skill to that of a doctor or surgeon. And remember, all this started with the misguided operation she performed on Al's heart for totally altruistic reasons. But Nyx had already compromised her ethics before Letha was influencing her. Hogwin makes what she's responsible for and not very clear. I also love the scene where Nyx is confronted by numerous burning souls begging for her help. She experiences the reality of Hell and is mortified by her powerlessness to help anyone but the one she came for. The deal she made with the demon was passage for her and only one other, and that anguish at leaving helpless souls makes what she does to Redeemer The lie that she can save him as well, all the more powerful. I also like the Spawn suit's role in this because we're not off in left field telling minor stories just about this random new character. Spawn is still here, and this story has arguably always been as much about the symbiote as it has Al itself. There's a compelling mystery introduced about Cagliostro, who has left Hell to its own devices and holed himself up inside his own fortress. It's speculated on as to why, possibly Redeemer says as protection from Spawn. Lots of reasons to anticipate next issue, and this art is fresh, original, often stunning, and totally appropriate for this book, despite such a dramatic shift from the brightly colored, flashy stuff we're used to. It kind of makes me wish Hell always looked like this. Man, I wish Holguin's writing was consistently this good. I've liked his writing before, but this is on a whole other level. Apparently this book must be perpetually set in Hell to stay compelling and readable. If the title suddenly changed to Spawn in Hell Forever, the next 100 days would be an absolute breeze. Unfortunately, Hell would have to do what it would take to create that breeze and freeze over. Signed, Captain Logan.